Welcome back, guys, to the CHG podcast. I'm David. That's RJ. I'm running the show this time because this guy was sick. Finally, he's the sick one, not me, and he's all sniffly still. So
Hi,
I'll be
guys.
running the show. So welcome back.
Let me
we're
speak
talking-
at least. Let me speak.
Hey, I'm in my bag, bro.
Come on, give me a. You need to let me speak to the people. Hello, guys. So yeah, I'm sick. I'm at the kind of shaking off the last bit of it. I got sick last Friday. Man, I got effed up on Friday, son. Like I was feeling this like throat thing on like a week ago, a week from today, which is Wednesday. So last Wednesday, I was feeling this little throat thing, and I was like, it's fine. It's probably just a little throat, little hoarse throat or something, coarse throat. And Thursday came, same thing. Like it was just a little throat thing. I was like, whatever, no big deal. I'm feeling fine. And then Friday during the day, and everything was fine. I was good. Friday night, I don't know what the fuck happened. But Friday night, it just came and just that Batman meme with Robin just slapped the shit out of me. And I had the shivers. I had body aches.
Did you test yourself for COVID?
I did. It was negative. Body aches. I had the runny stuffed nose, the throat issue, coughing, dry heaving. I haven't been that sick since I got COVID when you visited 2 years ago. That was
when he gave me COVID,
and then I gave you COVID. Yes, yeah. Well, I got COVID from my stepbrother, and then I gave it to you, or maybe we both got it from him because he was right over across the. He was right across the hall from us, so we both could have got it.
I'm gonna blame him though.
Because we got sick around the same time. Because I was like sick, and then like the next day you were sick.
Yeah.
So I must have just caught it first, but like I think we both got it. I think might have been from him. Anyways. I'm in the 6 since I got COVID because I don't usually get sick. And if I do, it's like a little something, little bug, tiny little thing that most people could just like walk off. Most people go to work with, but not me. Like I'll treat like it's big ass deal. Like I can't call David. I gotta call out David.
Yeah, so that's why we're a little late too, is because.
So yeah, couldn't record much on Monday. Wasn't feeling that great.
And Tuesday something came up.
Yeah, so sorry this is late. So you're going to be seeing these episodes kind of this episode and then the next one next week, not too far from each other. But
yeah, pretty close up.
It is what it is. But David, lead the way. Lead us.
So this episode we're going to be talking about episode 6, The Ties That Bind. We finally, Joel finally gets back to his brother.
For Last of Us, the Last of Us show, everybody. You didn't say that. You got to say Last of Us.
They know what's up. All right, we've been doing this for 6 weeks in a row.
For the random people who might not, you gotta
They got to read the header, bro.
Nobody reads. They just see thumbnails.
Fine. We're doing a podcast of The Last of Us. Where this is episode 6, Ties That Bind. Joel and Ellie make it to Jackson. And they find Joel's brother,
Tommy.
There we go. I was blanking on his name.
You were.
And Tommy's wife, who I think is a new character. No, what her name is. Totally forgot it.
Not new. Not
whatever.
New.
Cool.
New race, but not new character.
Oh, see, we didn't spend that much time in Jackson last time. So,
is it Jackson?
I don't even know if it's Jackson in the game.
Jackson in Wyoming.
It is Jackson in the show for sure.
Okay.
But no, I mean, so we get a little bit of new content in the beginning with the couple that I thought was hilarious. I love that little couple. Like you don't tell us the same thing your wife did. Like you tell them the truth. Yeah. Like.
They're so old. It's like, why do they don't give a shit, which I thought was hilarious.
It's like, you made them soup? Yeah. So, maybe my favorite original characters so far, old dude and old woman in cabin.
I don't know if you caught this, but and it's we'll have to see if when uh when Joel and Ellie are in that because what will happen later is they'll be in that shack and Ellie tries to help Joel, and then the whole scene with David and all that crap.
Mm.
There's that scene when Joel finally gets better and he's trying to find Ellie, and he interrogates those two guys in that
Mm.
cutscene.
Yeah.
Well, he said some of those same lines to the old couple to from the game. He was like, like in your wife better or whatever, your wife better agree or better be the same mark that your wife did.
Yeah.
That was a direct line from the interrogation scene
See,
from
I
the
didn't know
game,
that.
where he was like mark the map of where
The
Ellie's
camp
supposed
is.
to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
and and it better be the same spot that your buddy points to. That was literally a line for line. We'll have to see how that plays out if they do that later in the show. But
Because
that was a direct line from that
we'll
scene.
get to the confrontation at the college, but it plays out a little bit differently. I think it's in line with
Very differently. Very differently.
in line with kind of how they've been approaching overall action in the show. But let's talk about Jackson a little bit. I think Jackson
Oh yeah,
looks
I didn't mean to jump ahead. It's just something.
yeah.
It just came up.
Yeah, no. So like Jackson looks great. I think it reminds me. Now you didn't play the
No, I
second
haven't played so.
game,
No.
but Tommy's encampment it is where they settle after the first game, and it is very much reminiscent of the Jackson we saw on the show. Just with all the kids around, and they have shops for everything, and it's real safe environment and stuff like that. Like it feels just like a place. I'm not sure exactly where it is in the game. I didn't pay too much attention to that. I mean, they got to Seattle real quick, so I don't know if it was closer to that, but yeah. So I really enjoyed that little you get a taste of safety and what could
in part 2.
Yeah.
Did they flesh out that Tommy's town, like his little safe haven?
Yeah, a little
Because
bit.
in the first game, what you see is not much.
Yeah, you're able to walk around in it. You can have a snowball fight with kids.
So it is more fleshed out in the second game. Okay.
Yeah.
Because remember in the first game, it literally just seemed like you only saw two kind of things, like the power plant or whatever thing that they were using for electricity.
Mm.
That was all we saw, and it seemed that was about it. It was pretty enclosed.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, you see a lot more.
Curious.
It depends on how much you just wander around.
Oh wait, I'm a liar. I'm sorry. No, I take that back, because when Joel, Ellie, and Tommy come back from that ranch that Ellie runs to in the game, when they come back, he was talking about Tommy was they went to the other part of the town with a bunch of lights were shining, and Tommy was saying, I think Tommy actually might have mentioned that they were watching a movie that night. As a matter of fact. So you know what? No, you do get a glimpse of what the bigger city might look like, and okay, never mind. I take that back. So we actually did see it.
So yeah, so Jackson's pretty fleshed out, a little bit more in line with the second game than maybe the first one, but there is some rumblings in the first game. Let's talk about some that we haven't mentioned, and I heard mentioned in another podcast I was listening to, and I can't believe we haven't mentioned it. And maybe it's because you always play it on hardcore mode where you don't have Joel's super hearing senses, but it is interesting that in the game he has these super hearing senses that where he can see people pretty much through walls and shit, which is a gameplay mechanic.
I think they call it listening mode. I think it's
listening mode. And in the game, in the show, it's the opposite. Like his hearing's fucked. So
that's funny. Yeah, that's
it's an interesting. Yeah,
like a little Easter egg thing.
Maybe an Easter egg, but just a weird divergent thing. But we also see something that doesn't happen in the games. But again, I like the change. I think you get into, because you're not Joel. Like in the game, you're Joel. So a lot of the connection that you feel emotionally wise, you form by playing as him. Where in the show, you don't have that interaction. But it shows his panic attacks he's having about the possibility of letting down or getting Ellie killed. pops up both at the shack with my favorite old couple, and then also at Jackson, where
Mm-hmm.
and then he sees what looks like his daughter, what looks like Sarah. What do you think about that change? Just that because I do think it makes him, like, in the game he's this like badass motherfucker who like can take on fucking
Yeah,
anything. Like he like
yeah.
and we do see, like, in the game there's a lot of action. We get that feeling. In the show, we've talked in the past episodes that there isn't a lot of action in here. He's not facing groups of raiders every corridor or whatever. Um, but this also then, in the show, he is old, a vulnerable old man. He is very grizzled and very good at what he does, but he's old. So, like, how do you feel about that change of making him a little bit more vulnerable?
Well, we talked about it last time. How I mentioned about they're making him more open much sooner than he was in the game. He didn't really start really opening up with Ellie until, I mean, he didn't like fully embrace Ellie until the shit with David.
Mm.
That was kind of like when he fully embraced her and like called her baby girl, and like that was at that was the changing point.
Mm.
That was it. That was
He hasn't
when
called
you
her baby
knew.
girl yet.
No, yes, but I'm saying though
Yeah.
that we knew in the game that was when that was Joel was all in at that point.
Mm.
That's when you knew Joel was like Joel absolutely cares for Ellie. Like he's no longer really gonna hide it anymore. Um, and that took all the way till then, like 3/4 of the game, for us to get that. And up until then, there was a few moments where he was being protective and kind of caring and kind of humoring Ellie a bit or whatever, but it
Mm.
was still under the guise of just like I would rather not be here. Whereas we got Joel Ellie's making Joel legit laugh while they're in Pitts or Kansas City,
Kansas City.
Kansas City, Pittsburgh or whatever,
Yeah.
same thing. Which was that's hella sooner. That's way sooner than it was in the game.
Mm.
So and I commented on that. And I was wondering what are they going to do with that now because
Mm.
he's opening up much sooner, and I noticed that, and I don't mind it. I'm just wondering what they do with it.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense because if you again, it's like the fucking neckbeards and the diehards need to calm the fuck down because it's like, would it make sense for anyone, let alone a grizzled 50-year-old man with bad knees, to go actively searching to kill people and to take people out?
Yeah.
No, it would make zero
I
sense.
I would.
So why would he be fighting raiders
Yeah.
or scavengers or every other turn, every other corridor, and that's why there's no action in this,
Yeah.
or there's very little, because that would make no sense. You would be actively avoiding everybody and anybody as much as you possibly could in this world. So I
And
like it. It makes
something
sense.
you don't think of when you're playing the game, but like if you sit there and you think about it, you're like, okay, wait, this is like a post-apocalyptic. Like, this is most of humanity
Yeah.
is supposedly dead. It feels like in the game, if you think about it, that you've killed probably half of the world's population, of what's left of the world's population by the end of the game. You probably killed like most people on Earth
You took
that's
off a
left
good
on Earth.
like a solid percent. Like even if you took off 1% of the global population, that's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah, yeah.
So like
Like
he
it felt like you were just tearing through people in the
by the
game.
time, and clickers were people. I mean, so so it's
Yeah,
like if you were to do a tally, I don't think the game keeps tally of all your
yeah,
kills. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But if you were to add all that up in one playthrough, and it's like if you think about how many people probably died, I don't know if the numbers were ever given for how many people actually died from the pandemic.
yeah.
But you probably took off like a percentage of a percent, which that's a
Yeah,
lot of people.
I would say what I'll give people who said that there isn't enough action. What I'll say is that just based off of what we were just talking about, with that there shouldn't be a lot of people left. It would make sense if there was more interactions with runners um, in the show. Like, I do feel like they could have added a few encounters with runners, something like that. you know. But
I mean, yeah,
that being
I think,
said,
yeah,
we've bounced from story point to story point. I don't know where you would add that in with all of the rest of the story that's gone on, and I wouldn't really cut anything besides maybe some of the stuff with see, I forgot her name, the
Kathleen.
leader of Kathleen. Yeah, like maybe
Yeah,
because
Kathleen.
that wasn't the strongest. Like maybe insert just more hardship with runners. But even then, I don't know if I'd cut that. But I think that maybe they could benefit from like one action scene, and we'll talk about it later. Something to bring up at the end, but like the ending of this season and what it's going to be. Um, but but yeah, I mean, we're seeing a more vulnerable Joel, um, who is old, who can't hear shit. I saw this in the, I don't know if it was the previous episode or just early on in this episode. I saw Joel like taking watch, like they didn't do it in shifts, like he just took the whole watch. I know it happens once or twice in this episode, but I think it happened in an earlier episode too, where he was like, she was like, oh, what shift am I going to take or whatever, and he just took it all. Oh, it was when they got into the woods.
Yeah.
From
And
the
in this episode, it was this episode.
No, not this episode. I'm talking about when they first got into the woods.
Oh,
After Bill and
I
Frank's.
think after Bill, yeah.
Yeah, where she was like, we're gonna take, whatever. He was like, no, you go to sleep. I want to be alert for people if they come across this kind of thing. And that's when I was like, oh,
Okay.
so I think he like at that time I was like, well, does he not trust her, or does he just like really want to keep her safe? Like he doesn't trust the situation if he's not actively involved. And now looking at it, I think that was the case even then.
Well, I mean, that could be the case. I mean, the motive could be different though, but I agree. I wouldn't trust her. I wouldn't trust a 14-year-old who I just gave a gun to, to like be able to fend off shit or like
Yeah.
wake me up in time. Like I don't trust
They
her for that.
they do give a
Regardless of what my
little
motive is.
they do give a little like fun detail that he's taught her how to, though. In this episode, when he falls asleep and she wakes up and takes over watch, she's like, I did this, I did that, and guess who fucking taught me that? You did. like I fucking got this. So but yeah, I think it's interesting to see this more vulnerable Joel, like the way that Pedro Pascal was like genuinely, when he was talking to Tommy, like genuinely scared that he was going
That
to
scene,
let her
that
down like Sarah.
that scene between the two of them, that was something. I will tell you that was a scene that I
Yeah.
was not expecting.
That wasn't anything, was that from the game? No, I didn't think so.
So the only talk that those two had together was when they first get to there and they split up. Joel and Ellie split up, and Tommy's that was kind of the same. Where Tommy was kind of walking them through the town and showing them some stuff, but it
Mm.
was just those two at the time. And then then Tommy gave Joel a picture of his daughter. What's her name? Sam or something. Um, but Joel didn't want it. And then
So kind of a similar interaction that we get in the show, different but same like kind of
different,
feel.
but at the end of it though, that's when Joel tells Tommy, "Hey, I need you to take Ellie." So it starts off the same, but I'm happy they changed it to where they're not mad at each other. Well, they were kind of mad at each other, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
But
They make
um,
up.
and they made it really quickly too, which I thought was really nice. That's what siblings do. So, anyways, I was just happy that like because it just felt pissy the whole time in the game.
Mm.
Like they hugged each other, they're happy to see each other, but like it lasted for like 2 seconds, and then like Joel just needed to just be on his way. I mean, he didn't want to stay, he didn't want to do any of that, and it just seemed like it was a very quick, abrupt meeting, and then that was it in the game. And then they end off almost at a pissy note, like where they're about to have a fight, because he like pushed Tommy against a locker, and it was just like, I did all these things that protect us. Like you're like, oh, you did all this, like, oh, I didn't do shit, and then it's like, man, you better, yeah, this ain't like Boston. You put your hands on me again, and we're gonna have a problem. And I was just, I mean, it's emotional in a different way. Like only siblings could understand that kind of emotion. you know. Um, but in this game, in the show, it started their argument in the show was so different, but it made so much sense.
Yeah, I felt it was natural. Like, they're finally seeing each other again. They're talking, stuff like that, and then there's just a little thing. Him mentioning that he's going to be a father. Like, I think already, like, you can see Joel kind of checking this place out and being like, you know, this is like, I think to him he's thinking like, this is a little bit too lax. Like, I think they have it a little bit too good here. And
Yeah,
so he's a little bit like, oh, they're kind of soft. And then he hears the stuff about Tommy having a daughter, or gonna be, not a daughter, well, maybe a daughter in the show, it was daughter in the game, but he's gonna have a kid, he's gonna be a father. And Joel doesn't outright get pissy at that moment. Like, he tries to be like, okay, yeah, sure, have
well,
a kid, I guess.
actually, it started when he found out that he was married.
Oh yeah, that too, yeah.
Which at first I was like, is this Joel racist or something? Because I
Well,
was
no,
like,
his daughter was fucking black.
I know. Give me a second. Like my first thought was thinking like, there's no way this Joel's racist. There's no way Neil would do that. There's no way. And I was like, that would also be hella weird because Pedro, I know he's supposed to be a white guy, but I mean, come on. Like, he's obviously Hispanic. Tommy's obviously Hispanic. So I was like, that'd be really fucking weird. But then I was like, no, he can't be. His daughter's black. Like, it just blew my.
I mean, not that you can't have one and have the other.
Yes,
but
they aren't
yeah,
mutually exclusive, but it's very rare when that would
it
happen.
is. Yeah,
But like, I was saying like, nah. But it took me a while to remember that his daughter was black. I think it took me for him to see that woman that he thought was his daughter to make me realize, nah, he's not racist. It took me fucking forever to figure that out. But yeah, it started then when he got all weird. But I was still wondering like, why is he? I didn't really understand that, and then Tommy kind of brought it out, and I was like, oh,
yeah, like, just because you had to stop living because of Sarah doesn't mean I do. So yeah, no, I thought that was really good. I think the whole interaction after that too, with them kind of making up, and then Joel breaking down about his insecurities about keeping her alive, and then when he tells her like, hey, she's been bitten, but it's been a month and she's good, and like Tommy kind of looks at the door, like he even thinks about like in that moment about like busting out.
Like, Tommy's reaction to that was so good. Yeah. It was like a mix of fear and concern.
Because he was like, his brother's sitting there telling him that everything's good, but what he just heard was like some crazy shit. Like, he just heard some crazy shit that if anyone else other than Joel, probably even his own wife, tells him that that same thing, he's probably out that door going to go kill Ellie. But I thought that was interesting. I think to bring it back, a point that I thought was funny as a history major and a political science enthusiast is when they were like,
the communist thing? The communist
thing? When they were explaining things, and Joel's like, it's kind of like communism. It's like, no, not communism. And his wife's like, no, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
We're a commune.
I made that. I thought that was so fucking funny. So I'm not a mystery major myself, but what I've been told and read myself, if you take communism at the core idea, it's supposed to be pretty solid. It's just never been done in that way, and that's why it has such a bad rep.
Yeah, not to jump too far into it. Communes.
No, this is now a history. This is now a history major poli sci podcast. Get ready.
So communes, like there's farming communes, and I mean, like in a very small scale, is very easily done. It's very easy to point everyone in the same direction. And make everyone, and not make, but have everyone agree to go in one direction and share all the resources in one direction when it's a very small amount of people. The problem you get into is when you expand that out to large governments, you have, every single person more you add that could have a dissenting opinion adds to the problems of pointing everyone in that same direction and agreeing that all these resources should be dictated in this one direction. So it's about scale. It's also about leadership. You know, when you have all that power at the head of state, like communist countries tend to do, because you have to, again, point everyone in this direction, and it's typically one person or a small group of people, an oligarchy, pointing it in one direction. So yeah, it would be easily done at a size at that level town size. In fact, it's most likely how it would go. It's either going to be a dictatorship or a commune. People want to say like, oh, you know, there would be democracies and stuff. Not really. Like there would be an oligarchy, which is a group of leaders, and it would be probably a commune system or a dictatorship. You don't really get to democracy until you have several communities together that would link together. But that's just my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious. I did that
did
little
too. I did
interaction
too.
because especially because Tommy was in the army, and you know that kind of like
Well, and not
there's a
just that,
stereotype.
they're both Southern boys.
Yeah, Southern boys. Yeah, yeah.
They're both Southern boys, so it's like they obviously they have a very distinct understanding of communism, and that made me chuckle. And I'm sure for all you people that do understand the actual idea of
I mean,
communism, you probably laugh too.
and again, I think Pedro did such a good job playing that, because as he's saying it, he's got a smirk on his face. He
Mhm.
has a smirk on his face because he knows this is gonna rub his brother, and I thought that was hilarious.
Hey, that's what
But
siblings do, right?
let's talk about potentially the most scene like scene for scene, word for word, direct adaptation of the game to the
I
show.
think this will be the most direct
Yeah,
since the first
Joel's.
since the first episode.
Yeah,
So I think the first episode had the most one-to-one stuff, like especially for a long scene as well. I think this is like the first time since then we've had like a really long scene for scene exact
so for people to understand what we're
representation.
talking about, for maybe only show watchers, we're talking about Joel and Ellie's conversation on loss, which
In the
was
bedroom.
essentially the timing is different, and the locale is different, but essentially from the moment Joel walks in to the moment he walks out, that is ripped from the game minus a few words, like
There was like a couple lines from
different
Joel.
phrasing words that
There
were
was a couple
different.
lines from Joel that were different, but
Yeah,
other
so
than
he
that, I
says,
think all of Ellie's lines were the exact same.
mm-hmm. When she brings up Sarah's name in the game, he says, don't you start, Ellie,"
Oh,
or
I can
something
tell. No,
like
no,
that.
I can tell you what he says because
Oh, yeah.
I replay this scene so many times because when I'm feeling emotional, you got to just let that out. I'll go
Mm,
and replay, like I'll type in like most emotional Last of Us scenes because I know which ones they're going to
mm,
choose.
mm.
so,
So what did he say? What did he say?
so
She
when
says that
she says I'm not
whoever
Sarah,
said,
like, and it says Marie told me about Sarah, and then he goes Ellie,
yeah,
and he
and in
goes
the show he
you,
says no.
yeah, well,
It's more
so
direct.
but then he says Ellie, you were walking on some mighty thin ice here. And
Yep.
his voice is hella shaky when he says it,
Mm,
as if he's about to cry. Um,
mm.
and he doesn't say that in the
And
show.
I think in the show he says no, and he says you don't know what you're talking about.
Something like that. I mean, whatever he said,
Something along those lines.
I
Yeah, it
liked
was
it,
still good.
but I was expecting the mighty thin
The
ice
Mighty Thin
because
Ice. Yeah,
that gets me every fucking time. Because
yeah.
that was up until that point, that was the most emotion we have seen out of Joel about something that
Mm-hmm.
he cares about, and I think that's why it gets me so much. Because like that's when he's starting. Like it's funny that he uses the word thin ice because that's when he's actually starting to crack. So, look at us with our allegories. But yeah, so that's what he says when she says
But
it.
yeah, that was brilliantly done. I mean, I love. I think at the end of the day, unless this goes horribly long at the end, this is hands down one of the best, not just video game adaptations to live action, but potentially one of the best adaptations from another form of media outside of books, because I think most media gets transferred from books, and I think there's other ones that have done really good, like Lord of the Rings and stuff. But like any anime, video game, uh, even like movie to TV or TV to movie, like any like motion, like visual media transferred to live action, this is probably the best that's ever done. And this is one of the reasons why because I think Neil is on the team, the way they pick and choose what they change and then what they rip straight from the game, I think is so well done. I believe it was the not this week's but last week's after show where Neil said the only time that I let them change it significantly is if it works better. And I think that is pretty much the case for me, is that I don't think this scene could have been done any better than how it was done in the game, and they didn't try to do it any better. They just did it. And and Bella Thorne was talking about how it took them a while to do that scene just because they were both emotional about the scene, which I thought was cool too.
Well, yeah, they should be. It's so fucking sad because it's also one of the first times we see in the game, and two, but it's also one of the first times we actually see Ellie get emotional, not just Joel. Because Ellie's usually just a jubilant kid who you can tell she's just using it to mask all the pain. But that's the first time she gets really sad and emotional too, and she's about to break down. So it's like both of them are finally opening up from different demeanors that they had before, and it's just like I can't take it. But I will say we've been saying this from the first couple episodes, guys. The way they like remix some of the events and sequences to get to some of the same places and the same pivotal points from the game have been truly phenomenal. And to the point where, yeah, if you want to be a diehard neckbeard and you want to be like, this isn't 1 for 1, not everything's 1 for 1, 0 out of 10. Like, unless you're that guy, it's like, it's so well done. And you could tell there was at least thought put into how they redid it, that it's fine. And so, like, for instance, yeah, the environment of their conversation wasn't the same. And I was wondering about if they were going to do something with the ranch, right? If they were going to have Ellie, dip out of there and go to like, the ranch thing. But I feel like that was probably done for the game so that there can be a fight scene, because there's like a little scene that they have to get through to get to the ranch first, which is like, how the hell did Ellie not have to deal with those guys? But anyways, so like,
on that note, I just went to Metacritic to look up the show's ratings, and it has a 6.6.
All right.
User score. Yeah. And like, no fucking way. Like, no fucking way. Like even if I'm being critical of this show and not like just loving that they're doing a really good job, which it honestly is probably, like, this is one of my favorite shows of all time so far. And it's partly because they're, in my opinion, doing such a good job at adapting it. But even if I take away all the nostalgia feel to it, it's at least like an 8 out of 10. And then I go down to the bottom, and then this comment by Matches Malone 13.
Damn, you gonna say the username too?
Oh yeah. I'm calling Matches Malone 13 out.
If you see this, buddy, you know who to strike at, not me.
yeah. Okay, so like it's a 0, and he's like, the Last of Us game is a 10 out of 10. All they had to do was recreate with actors. Apparently that's too hard to do, and this show is just an excuse to throw more political nonsense down the viewer's throat. Fucking what? Matches fucking what? The
communism,
Dylan
bro.
Frank?
Communism.
I guess communism?
Communism.
Anyway, genuinely deserves 0 out of 10 because beloved characters just do not matter in this show. Fuck you. Okay, Joel is nearly perfect. Nearly fucking perfect. Ellie, yes, like, I would say probably a 7 out of 10 as far as adaptation goes.
There's only like 6 characters in the game anyways. What is he beefing? There's like 6 characters.
Fucking Tommy is like, the little bit that we got from Tommy from the game. Tommy's great too. Like, The fuck are you talking about?
Let's list off all these characters, all right, from the game. These beloved characters. There's not even
Joel, 10
okay.
out of 10.
So we
10 out
have
of 10
Joel,
representation.
we have Ellie, we have Tess, we have Marlene, we have Tommy, and then we have
Marley's the
Henry.
fucking same person.
We have Henry Sam, and then we'll have David later. I'm not going to count Maria, and I'm not going to count Robert because they're like one scene. They're nothing.
Bill and Frank.
Did I say? Oh, I didn't say them. Oh, well, okay.
Well,
In the game, just Bill. It's just Bill. So not even 10 characters that matter. And you can even argue Marlene doesn't matter because she's so rarely in the game.
And every single fucking one of them is at least a 7. Like Ellie and Tess are like the two that aren't.
Whoa, don't you hit on my Tess like that. Don't you hit on my Tess.
There's I agree with you. There's like the looks wise, there wasn't like, they've done a good job looks wise matching most of the characters too.
Bro, even though Tess doesn't look anything like she does in the game, her
mannerisms, like how badass she is,
bro. Tess is so good, man. Tess is so
good. And again, the changes that they've done, making Henry's the younger brother, right? Or is it
older?
Sam. Even making Sam, change, fucking worked perfectly. Like making him younger, making him deaf was perfect. It was fucking perfect. And it's still like, what's important about those two characters? It's that they're brothers who rely on each other and who love each other more than fucking anything else in this world. And they're ready to do anything for each other. And they fucking did that. Anyway, so
I like how this has now become a review corner fucking
Matches Malone 13. Yeah, Matches Malone 13. You're stupid.
You're talking hot shit for someone who doesn't look at the comments.
Hey! If Matches Malone comes and comments on it, I'll have him on the podcast, bro. We'll have a sit down.
Hey, I'm not in that. Don't even get me into this. It can be you and him.
I need Matches Malone to come on here and tell me point for point how they ruined beloved characters. Tell me how they ruined Joel. Tell me how they ruined Ellie. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway.
I'm not even in this one. I'm not even in this.
Move on.
What were we even talking about? Oh, yeah, I was talking about the changes that they do.
Yeah.
Like they're so good that you don't even really care. For someone like myself who does know the game, I'm very, very familiar with most of the game because I've replayed it a lot of times, and I'm not the only one who's done that. It's like, yeah, okay, it wasn't the exact way, but the way we did get here felt very natural, made sense, and it still gets us to where we need to be. And then the scene that you want to have play out will play out, and it's great. So like it makes sense for them to have that scene in that room, and the room is still about the same. So it's like the environment's very similar. Like like he even
she was reading the diary of the girl,
found her on the windowsill or whatever you want to call that, and she even said like, "Is this all girls have to worry about?" I was like, "Oh my gosh,
skirts and shit.
Oh my gosh, that's the exact same thing." So it's like when you say the lines and you do the scene, and she even like fucking pushed him at the same way with the right exact time. Joel. Like everyone fucking except for you. Like, I was like, no, I'm not ready for this. So it's like when you do all of that, it's like, who fucking cares about these extra details? Like, okay, we're not in a ranch, but I don't give a fuck when I had all this perfection. It's like, who cares? So it's and that's not the first time we've had something like this. Like almost every episode we've had like, a big remix or a smaller remix of how we made mine. Like in the last episode or one when they're in Kansas City and they got to the sewer section with with the little Easter egg of Ish and Dylan or whoever. Like, they didn't get there that same way. And it was through a building. And it was way more dramatic in the game, but like we still got here, and we still got to have the Easter egg, and they did the soccer thing, and so it's like it made sense, and also
it still works. It's still dramatic. It's not like it was boring. Like it's just exciting in a different way.
And it's like if you think about it, the soccer game, they played the soccer thing like before they really got into the main nursery. In the game, they were still kind of like in the sewers. And so it's like, why would you be playing soccer in the fucking sewers? Like like some rat people. You know, it would make more sense to have it happen in the nursery. That would
Yeah.
make way more sense.
What,
So
what what I'll say before we move on, because we need to get to the one last part, the ending part. Before we move on, I will say this to Matches Malone and anyone who
dude,
thinks
leave it
like
alone.
Matches Malone thinks. If you want a fucking one for one, all the game was so perfect, they don't need to change anything, just fucking copy paste, then go play the fucking game again. Or go onto YouTube. There's cutscene compilations. Just go fucking watch that. All right. So anyway, on to the next. Let's talk about something that they did change up a lot. The university scene.
That was really rushed. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did
It
think that
was
was really rushed. I was expecting them. I'm not, and not
again.
because I want action. I just wanted to just have them explore the school more. Just give us more of
I
that environment.
I think that there are times when as a viewer, I would be okay if they got into a little shootout, more action stuff, right? Like that was an opportunity there where I was like, they could have had a larger action scene and then ended with the scene that they ended on. I think that there could have been more interaction as they were getting out. Like maybe they run into one of them at the door and they have to fight, him, or maybe a couple of them, or they're shooting and running in the school as they're going, trying to get away. Like I think there could have been more action, but so yeah, I agree. It was rushed. We got monkeys though, fucking monkeys.
We did have the monkeys, so I was happy about
Got
the
the monkeys,
Or
fucking
it could
just
have been,
fucking with them.
or we could maybe not the action scene with the Raiders, but we could have maybe had a scene with the clickers. Maybe
Yeah,
not, and maybe not in the basement of dorms, but like in some dormitory hallway that was that they had to get through, and there was just like they started hearing clickers and stuff. So like that could have been a
and
tense little moment.
they don't even necessarily have to kill them, face him, but like even showing them needing to sneak around them without making a
Yeah,
sound.
that's tense. That's gonna be very tense. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
like
that's what they
so.
tried to do in the museum at
Yeah,
first. That's what they tried to do.
yeah. I think
um,
like don't get me wrong. Like there are things that I would change about this show, or at least I would suggest, because if I made the changes, it would be fucking horrible. But that I would suggest that I would like to see more. But it's not killer stuff for me. So yeah, that was a point where I was like, it could have used a little bit more tense action elements.
yeah, I mean the university wasn't a big like you just spent a lot of time in that section of the game. You weren't there very long, and the shootout is a bit tough, but it's not too bad. Um, to get to where you need to get to, and so like they didn't have. I'm not saying they needed to spend maybe a whole episode, maybe half or 20 minutes or something of an episode, but I did feel it was a bit rushed. I did like how they figured out that there was no one there. That was cool. That was a bit different
Yeah,
because in the
having the
game
note
they had to find
and then the
some
board.
some sharpshooter who was a skeleton, which I'm like, how the hell did this happen? Um,
They've
like to this
been
poor
going for
dude.
fucking
Like yeah,
years, like
yeah
40 years.
that would take forever for that to happen. So
No,
like
how the fuck did Tommy not know about this?
yeah, so I'm like that was weird, and also I'm not even mad, and I'm sure Match is probably upset that he didn't fall off the 2-story balcony like he did in the
Yeah.
game. But it's like yo, and even when I played the game, I was thinking like Joel should be dead. Like he should be fucking dead. Like even if the spike wasn't there or whatever that you want to call that, we'll just call it a spike. Even if the spike wasn't there, it's like, dude, you fell 2 stories onto concrete. It wasn't like you fell on the grass. You fell on concrete on the back of your head. You should at least have a concussion, minimum. But you're probably got like a fracture or something. You got some internal bleeding. He fell back first, head first onto concrete. Sorry, we had a bit of an issue with the
Yeah.
recording. As I was saying though, so it's like, yo, he fell 2 stories, 20 feet minimum. It's like, yo, this dude is, and then you put a spike through his gut at the same time that dude, you're dead. I don't know what to tell you, man. You don't just get, and then
Yeah.
she really pulled him out and from in the game, and you just saw that blood just spill out.
Yeah. No, there's
It feels so long
and he
out
doesn't
of
he
the
just
school.
fucking heals from that shit. He's just fucking Wolverine out here.
Like I mean, it was very dramatic. I'm not mad about it. I'll be very clear. It was very dramatic. It was very tense, and it was great. But it's like when you're adapting things to real life, that shit don't fly. All
Yeah.
right, like you're not Superman. He's a very vulnerable old man.
And
So it's like
I will
that you
say,
can't
from
do
like
that.
a realism standpoint, I think maybe that was their thing. They're going for realism. Like that interaction with that dude, it wasn't like, okay. So my brother was in the army. He's in Iraq, and he tells me like like there's two kind of engagements. There's fucking all day shootouts where you're just posted up behind, a wall, and it's, you're popping up shooting people, and it's like it's an all day affair. Or it's over like that. Like you come across someone and you get either you or they get the first hit, and it's over super fast. So, these long things where, there's a whole bunch of people and he kills, you in the game where you kill like, 4 people in this room, and then you go to the next room. There's, for some reason, 3 more people that are just in that room, not reacting to the gunfire that was in the room, over there. It's just not realistic. So the real quick, like, Ellie shouts that he's there. He turns around. He misses the bat. They do their thing, and then he gets the broken end of the bat stuck in him. Like,
That's what that was. Okay, I was wondering what the fuck that was.
yeah, it was the broken
Okay.
handle of the bat.
Okay.
Yep. So
I didn't even
yeah,
catch that. That is crazy. I'll have to watch that again. See
yeah,
and
because they
see if he
break the
hold
bat on
on
the
to the.
tree.
I saw that. Well, I just thought he
Yeah.
just let go. I just assumed he let go.
No,
I'm gonna
and then
see if I watch it again. I'm gonna see if he actually holds on to the handle, like
yeah.
in the
So,
show.
and then we get the emotional scene of Joel falling off, and then
That was one for one. The way he even falls was crazy.
yeah,
That
and then
was
she's like, "Oh, like,
legit.
can't do this without you. Like, get up."
That was different though.
That was, yeah, but it
Like
still
she
worked
didn't
for
even
me.
cry. She didn't cry in the game, but she's like tearing up in the show,
Yeah, and
and
I think it works.
she's like whispering to him,
Yeah,
which I thought was better because like they just recently just had a very emotional connection,
yeah.
heart to heart a little while, like the previous night, and then
And
Joel,
he's flipped the switch. I think at this point in the show, he's like, "This is my daughter now." Like,
yeah, something like that,
like
and so yeah, and so it was weird that like in the game, like it was clear, like when Joel decided to bring Ellie on, like Ellie, come on, let's do this, and you could tell Ellie was super happy and super like relieved to be back with Joel
yeah.
in the game, and then it was
I
weird then
like
that
this
like she
show.
didn't, but it was weird though that like she didn't. I mean, she was exasperated in the game, yes, but like I don't know, like I felt more desperation at a Ellie in the
Yeah.
show from this time.
So yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, stuff was changed, but I think, again, overall, it was everything that was changed, other than maybe a lack of that. Other than the university thing was kind of rushed. I think everything
It
else
was
hits.
rushed.
Everything else hits
We could
for
have
me.
had at least 10 more minutes of that.
Yeah.
Easy. We could have had at least 10 more minutes. I was hoping they would have stopped the episode like kind of somewhere in the universe or like when they showed up, and I was like, oh wait, this oh jeez. I was looking at the time and I was like, oh crap, they're just gonna get right through this, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like like I was kind of upset
So
about that. I'm
there's a
not
little
gonna
bit of
lie to
that,
you.
but I think let's give our ratings. Um, for me, this is probably one of the better ones. I thought that the Henry Sam one was going to be my favorite. This one, I won't say it's better than the Henry Sam one, than last episode, but it's good. So, like, again, I gave that a 10 out of 10. I'll give this a 9 out of 10. I think there was some room for improvement, to make it like a 9.5, 10. I will say a 9 out of 10 for just as a show, how much I liked it as a show. As an adaptation, I think the stuff that they pulled one for one was so one for one for me that even the changes, uh, I didn't catch a lot of those changes because I'm not as in tune with the game as you were. So I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10 for adaptation. Like the word, like almost the ripped scenes that they had on a couple of different occasions, I think was great. So
Yeah, yeah, as a show watcher, I hope people who are watching the show who don't know the game are finally realizing that like and okay, so just like with the game, it's not really a zombie game.
yeah,
It is more of a is more of an action third person narrative driven game with zombies in it.
Even if you think about, if you think about what is the story of the game, like what is the focus? It's not focused around zombies like some other games are. It is focused around the relationship that builds between Joel and Ellie, and how that really by the end, spoiler alert, so stop watching right here.
Oh, here we go.
Changes the world. Like their relationship and what it becomes essentially changes what the world could have been. And the story is about that, and it just so happens to be that she can cure a zombie apocalypse instead of another pandemic or something else. It's about the story, their relationship, and how it builds.
It's about theirs. It's also about just general relationships at its core. It's about people. The zombies are just used as an excuse to give us a reason to care about these people and like why these relationships matter and why the interactions matter. Whereas, because a lot of zombie games, it's just all in the crux of the zombies. Like zombies are great, but it's like that's not all it's about. And that was the case with the game. It was like some people like to call it a zombie game, a survival horror game. I'm like, there's a little.
I wasn't ever scared. I was sweaty the whole time.
I might have been like a little like, oh, because maybe a clicker might get you from behind and you weren't expecting, but like that can happen in any game. Like fucking in BioShock Infinite, there's that scene where you turn around and like the boy, the little, I forget what the name is, but the boys with like the weird horn heads or whatever, and like he's like right behind you, and he does like a loud ass and like, rah, and you're just like, oh my god, like you're just scared out of your mind. Yeah, you're like, pause the game. I'm okay. I wasn't ready for that. It's like if you can do that, you can. I mean, even Uncharted 1 and 2, towards the end of the games, had like some supernatural, spooky, scary things, but like it's obviously not a horror game. So it's not a survival horror. It is more of a narrative-driven, third-person action shooter. Similarly with the show, this is not a zombie show. This is more of a drama, honestly, like an action drama where zombies are just the reasoning for why we're having this action drama. And I hope people or who don't know the game are starting to realize that. And I know they might feel like they might have felt bait and switched here, but like if you've been watching the show, it's like that was kind of being given to you from the start, because zombies are only used when they're needed to be used. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little too sparingly.
Yeah,
for like
I would say
for people who know the game, maybe a tad bit too sparingly.
I wouldn't be upset with more zombies, with more.
Nobody would. Nobody would. Yeah, I mean, at least more clickers. Like even if they don't fight them, like you said, if they're just having to tiptoe stealth around them, like that would be so tense.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's just I hope people are realizing that, because this show was more of a drama. So with this episode as like a show itself, because of that, because this is about people, it's about drama, it's about relationships and having them grow and these characters developing that you will love with all your heart by the end of it. This did a really good job, and it just further it, and like Joel's panic attack thing seems to be resonating very strongly with with online people. Like people online, they're really, even though we had it twice.
Not matches Malone 13. He's fucking pissed. He's like, my Joel was a fucking. I never died once in the game. I played on hardcore mode, and my Joel was amazing. This Joel's weak, and I fucking hate him.
Which is funny because Joel's. I think Joel's the same age in the game too, but whatever. So because of all that, it's funny, we only had the panic happen twice, only twice, and it was crazy to see the audience resonate with, like, when we finally realized it was about him freaking, and like in his heart to heart with Tommy. That was almost more heartbreaking to me than with Ellie, because like it was,
I think so,
between two brothers,
I think because he could be fully vulnerable around his brother.
That's probably the only person, and it was like, and he actually died. I'm not died. He actually cried. He cried too, which we never saw him cry in the game.
Yeah,
and so it was something. And so for what it was trying to do, and for what what this whole show in the game do about its characters and people, I would probably, I want to give it an 8.5. 8.5. Good 8.5.
Fair.
As far as adaptation, there was a lot that was adapted well. It was cool seeing the mixing with the interrogation scene, but with the old Indian tribe people, or native, I should say, native tribe people, because they took the scene but made it hella funny, and I loved it. Like she undermined Joel so hard, and it was the funniest thing. It's kind of
She
hard to
comes
take
down
some
with a
like to take.
gun. This is like, hey.
What it would have been hilarious because it's funny because like I'm not sure from her point of view, similarly to like Henry from the game when Henry said like like I was going to kill you, but then I saw her, and most people don't be hanging around with with a child, and so it gives people a different look of you when you're walking around with a kid, and you just have a different feel about you.
Yeah.
Because people make better assumptions of you, and I bet you when she saw that he was with that little girl, she was like, he ain't going. He's probably not gonna do shit. Even I'll still tell the truth, but like he ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because probably because he had a little girl with her. If he didn't have that girl, she probably would have made shit. She probably wouldn't have done shit
I
for him.
love that.
But because he has that little girl, yeah. So it was just funny seeing them twist that, and that again. I will be curious to see if they do it, but maybe more gruesomely and brutally later in the show. But I do like it. I do like that twist. It was nice to see. So maybe again, this is more of a adapting the second game, like just more of the general Last of Us universe of the commune.
The communist regime.
Political ideas.
Biden's America is trying to get me to like communism.
Oh my gosh. Man, you were just on a roll today. Anyways, yeah, so it was nice to see that because we didn't get that in the first game. We kind of got that at the end of the Tommy bit in the game. But in the second game, we got to see them more fleshed out. So we got to see that fleshed out in the show. So it was nice to see them adapt the second game and again, or at least ideas from that into the show because it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. Of course, the 1-to-1 thing was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Tore my heart up just like it did in the game. And then I liked, again, the race swapping with Maria, Tommy's wife, being black. She was white in the game. Well, everyone was fucking white in the game.
Except for Henry.
But
except some of the guys you killed.
That was about it. And Marlene.
Yeah,
that was about it. But yeah, so it was nice to see that. I didn't expect. I was thinking she might have been Maria. I was thinking maybe. But then when it was confirmed, I was like, oh, hell yeah, more race swapping. I'm down with that. Mixed race for life. Mixed race. Woo woo. So that was nice. Really great to see that. But even though we got the Monkeys University, because that was so rushed, I'm docking points. I gotta dock some points because I was like, that's a bit of a shame to not get at least a little bit more out of the university. Yeah. I was kind of expecting a little bit more, like just exploring it or something. Because I was like, it felt like, well, then why? Like it was just there just for the sake of having continuity with the game. And I was like, we could have done this more justice. Justice for university. Justice for the university. Hashtag. I'm sure Malloy or whatever his name would agree with me.
Matches Malone, yeah. Whatever, he's like, they ruined my university, man.
Yeah, so
probably I got a liberal arts college too.
Oh my gosh, stop. Why are you so triggered? Yeah, so
because I'm a libtard, okay? Oh I get triggered about this shit.
Dave, stop. You don't even live in Dallas. Stop.
I wasn't loving it's worse.
Well, it's like whatever. It's just, anyways. So yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. I would have given it more if the university had gotten more justice. I probably would have given it a 9. But I'm gonna have to give it an 8. It was still really good. That scene in the room, probably the best one since something from season 1 or episode 1. But university, man, I was expecting more. So,
well, I mean, it's still going strong. It's still, I mean, I'm not surprised anymore. But every week, I'm just like, oh man, they did it again. they didn't let me down.
Well, and I'm happy.
Did it again.
I will say I am happy that they are incorporating the DLC into the
Yes,
game.
next week.
I'm so
Next
happy they're
week
doing that.
will be something that you'll have to do all the heavy lifting on, because I did not play the
You
DLC at
never
all.
played it?
Nope, I
Oh
never played
man.
it.
And I'm so
So
happy.
you
Oh, I'm so happy that they're incorporating it exactly where it's supposed to be too. Because it
oh yeah,
happens because it's a more of a I'm curious to see what they'll
her
do.
flashback
I'm
happens.
curious to see what they do because all we saw in the preview was flashback stuff, but in the DLC it's a back and forth. So you do a little bit. It starts off present time and because she's trying to because it was never explained in the game, like in the main
How
game,
she
like
got Joel to shelter.
how did Joel, well, that, and also how did she patch him up? Like, how did she figure? I thought Joel was dead in the game. I was like, oh, Joel's dead. Like, how is Ellie going to fix this? Ellie can't do shit.
And really, he should have been, because again, you don't take something through yourself like that and fucking walk away from it when you
and
don't
two
have
stories
advanced
and
shit.
and with a 2-story fall in the
Yeah,
back of your neck.
he's fucking Wolverine.
But yeah, so I was thinking this man's dead. Like he has to be. So when they're explained, none of that was explained, but the DLC explains it. But then it goes back and forth between present day trying to find medicine and like antibiotic for Joel, and then also with the flashback with her and Riley. That's the name of her friend.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. I'm gonna be like any of our viewers who are first time watchers who haven't played the game. It's pretty much gonna be me next episode. So I'm pretty stoked for that. I will say two something that I learned was that the voice actor of Ellie in the game has an original character named Anna, who I think will be involved in the David arc.
Oh
And
gosh.
Troy Baker, who voiced Joel, also has an original character who will be in the David arc as well. So
I heard about Troy.
learned
I
that.
heard about Troy's. I did hear about that, but
Yep.
not Ellie's though. I think it's Ashley
Yeah.
Johnson. Is it? I
Something
think
like
that's her
that.
name.
Something like that. So they're both gonna have roles. That's cool. And then something cool I found is YouTube Last of Us alternate ending, possible new ending for it's an alternate ending for the game that they didn't end up using, possibly ending that they'll use for the show. So go YouTube that, watch it. Let us know if you want that to be the ending, or if you want them to stick to the original ending, the brutal fucking gorefest ending, which I hope personally. Although the new ending, the alternate ending, was pretty dope too. But I hope they incorporate the original ending, just because it's so iconic. So once again, guys, thank you for coming and watching us just fucking yap about how Matches Malone is the fucking worst.
Dude, I feel like you're gonna like start now looking for him in the rest of the episodes and see if he reviewed all the others,
Dude,
and being like, dude,
I need to
this
look at
Matches guy.
the episode for episode review and find fucking Matches Malone. I need to start just a beef with him. I'll fucking make a Metacritic account, bro. I'll be like, Matches Malone's a fucking dick. 10 out of 10, and then be done with it. But like, comment, subscribe. As always, your guys' ratings down below. What you thought of everything. Fucking rail on Matches Malone's. That would bring a joy to my heart. Just go at him in the comments below. I'm not one of those YouTubers that are like, let's not go after it. No, go after him. Fucking let's make sure this guy never fucking comments on another great show again. Okay.
Oh my god.
Anyway, guys, we love you. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye, guys.
See ya.